नमस्ते, स्वागत है आपका इंडिया दिस वीक के नए एपिसोड में और मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट आमना अंसारी खालिद बेग के साथ। तो आज जैसा कि हमने पहले ही आपको बता दिया है, हम डिस्कस करेंगे ज़ुबैर अहमद के अरेस्ट को और उसके सराउंडिंग में जितने भी इवेंट हैं, इश्यूज़ हुए हैं, किस तरह से ये मसला डेवलप हुआ है, इसकी सच्चाई क्या है। आज हम इस पे बात करेंगे और आज हम ये भी बात करेंगे क्यों हम ज़ुबैर के साथ स्टैंड नहीं लेते हैं। मैं, खालिद, उमर गाज़ी, ज़ेबा और हमारे जैसे लाखों और वॉइसेस होंगे जो हमारे जैसे सोचते होंगे, बट हम सामने आके इस बात को आपके सामने रखना चाहते हैं। तो ऑल्ट न्यूज़ के जो मोहम्मद ज़ुबैर हैं, उनके ऊपर 2 धाराएँ लगी हैं, 150 ए और साथ में 295 ए की। एक धारा है जो 2 समुदाय के बीच में दुश्मनी के बढ़ावे के वजह से लगाया गया है, दूसरा धार्मिक भावनाओं को ठेस पहुँचाने की वजह से लगाया गया है। तो मैं स्टार्ट करूँगी खालिद से। खालिद, आपने एक सेकंड, मैं आपका ट्वीट भी शेयर कर देती हूँ। आपने एक बहुत अच्छा ट्वीट लिखा था। Person A, we should not mock the God of any religion. Person B, no religion is above critic. Person C, I stand with Zubair to mock Hindu faith and to guard Muslim faith. तो मैं चाहती हूँ कि आप प्लीज़ इस ट्वीट को डिस्कस करें और एक्चुअली आपका क्या संदेश है, क्या आप बताना चाह रहे हैं इस छोटे से ट्वीट में, उसको यहाँ पे हमारे दर्शकों को समझाइए।
Yeah, sure. Amna, just wanted to correct you. It's 153A, promoting enmity between two religious groups, not 150. And it's 295, offending religious sentiments. So I made this tweet yesterday, Amna, and I believe personally, it's my humble opinion that this is the core issue. See, average Indian, if you take across religious communities, and since this is the most diverse country on the planet, you would not see them on social media or anywhere just going randomly and taking digs at someone's faith. It's a very sensitive topic. In some communities, more, in some less, right? Now, I can understand a person of principles, person A, जो कि बहुत सारे हमारे elders और इस generation के भी हैं. They're like, neither would I be mocking someone's faith, and neither would I expect that person to mock my faith. Right? You may disagree with that stance, but one thing you can say, these are sane, rational, honest people who are having the same set of moral values and standards and equality between different communities, right? Then you could have the second ones who are votaries of free speech, who again would do it within the parameters of decency and civility, where their critique is in a way where it doesn't offend someone, or it's not done from a position to abuse someone, and say no idea is above critique, and I would believe that every idea is subject to scrutiny. Then you have the third one, which I call the mafia, right? Which pretends that it is a well-wisher of India, which pretends that it is the savior of secularism, but they are playing this very dangerous, nefarious game. And it's a self-serving mafia. It has people from all communities who just for their careers, for their power, for their games, and for their fame, would want to pit communities against each other on this unequality basis, where someone like Mohammed Zubair, who's the co-founder of Alt News, for decades, through his Facebook page of running this page called Unofficial Susu Swami, again you can see how he's mocking the name of Subramanian Swami and putting that is allowed to him. Does not make one Facebook post through that account, does not make two, makes 10 to 15 where he's taking digs at people from the largest community who we stay with, our brothers and sisters from that faith. And this is not something which normal Muslims would do, right? But then, okay, he has his followership who see it through the freedom of expression. Irony is, and the dangerous irony is, the same person a month back we saw was the chief architect of taking that video out of context, devoiding it of anything, ensuring that it is used to rile up passions of masses, right? We've already seen today one killing because of that in Udaipur, right? We've already seen a 16-year-old Mudassir Muslim youth lose his life in clashes, right? Now, at the end of the day, what Zubair's lobby is saying, that the one he's painted a target on, that is hate speech, right? And he was at the forefront along with his partner Pratik Sinha, even after the news channel had removed that clip because it was leading to so much of tension. They were telling them constantly to rile up passions, knowing that there are elements within a community who would be ready to bring menace in the society because of that, saying we'll tell you where it is and you are supposed to go even more for it, and not even telling people that don't call for death threats and all. And of course now those death threats have culminated into a killing which has happened there. So what this lobby of Zubair is telling us ordinary Indians is that we will decide that what we call as hate speech, which would be where Zubair says if it's his faith, he will define that as hate speech if he thinks that someone has been disrespectful. But if it's someone else's faith of the majority community, he along with his Hindu partner will say ki no, that is fine, that should be allowed. But this is the problem of our society, which is these people infest it with this. And this, if we don't solve this secularism, this twisted dangerous secularism where equality is something Zubair is sending as oppression, where someone's saying, okay, you asked for blasphemy laws, now if you've done blasphemy, it's fair enough. So on one hand, how can his supporters say that they stand with him to hurt the sentiments of some other faith, but they also stand with him where he is acting like someone who can guard the sentiments of the faith, and there too he is actually maligning his faith, because the greatest of Islamic scholars from the Indian subcontinent, whether that's late Padma Vibhushan Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, whether that's Pakistan's Javed Gamadi, whether that's even some of top moderate clerics of Saudi, have clearly categorically said that blasphemy is not an issue that the believer can take in hand, and you need to go as per the law. And this is what my intention was in this. And you can see this mafia, how it operates. You can see how they want this twisted notion of secularism thrust on everyone, where they say, no, this is it. And this, if it's not challenged, then you can see this becomes the crux, the core between the communities. Later, what we see is symptoms. We see reactions, and then they blame those reactions. So I think as Indians who want to live at peace, to respect the sentiments of every faith, but to have equality, and not to have likes of him and his gang mafia to say that no, we will decide, and we will in one case say ki it's our liberty and it's fine to do it, in another case we would throw mobs on you. So that is what I wanted to say with this tweet.
उमर, आपने भी एक ट्वीट किया था कि जो लोग अभी ट्वीट कर रहे थे कि सेंटिमेंट हर्ट हो गए, आज के दिन वो एब्सोल्यूट जो फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच की बात करते हैं उसमें टर्न हो जाएंगे। तो आप भी उसी तरह की हिपोक्रेसी की बात कर रहे थे। आप तो इस पूरे मुद्दे पे आपका क्या विचार है, आप प्लीज हमें बताइए।
तो मैंने उस ट्वीट में भी ये बात रखने की कोशिश की थी, और अगर फ्री स्पीच का मुद्दा देखा जाए तो फ्री स्पीच, कुछ सोसाइटीज ऐसी हैं जो फ्री स्पीच को लेकर दे आर मोर ओपन, सम सोसाइटीज आर लेस ओपन. दैट इज अ कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट डिबेट, वेदर anything is considered sacred or not, and whether someone has the right to ridicule it or not. So absolute free speech जो है वो एक बिल्कुल ही सेपरेट डिबेट है. जब हम इंडिया में आ जाते हैं, इंडिया के अंदर द डिबेट इज नॉट अबाउट एब्सोल्यूट फ्री स्पीच. द काइंड ऑफ सोसाइटी दैट वी आर लिविंग इन, द काइंड ऑफ culturally and religiously diverse society we are living in, so that absolute free speech is not practical, at least today. हमें और भी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं जो हमें सॉल्व करनी है. वो सब प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने के बाद शायद हम फ्री स्पीच की, एब्सोल्यूट फ्री स्पीच की बात कर पाएंगे, बट दैट इज अ डिफरेंट डिबेट. Talking about the society today, right now Indian society is very much culturally diverse, and does Zubair have the right to, the legal right to ridicule the Hindu gods or not? No. But does he have the moral right? I would say even more strongly that he does not have any moral right to do so, because when I do not like someone making comments on my religion and I get riled up and I get angry and I'm ready to provoke people and provoke the masses, so that means I understand what being sensitive to a religious issue means. I'm not someone who considers nothing sacred. I'm not someone who is saying कि मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, किसी को कुछ भी बोलो. मुझे सेडिशन से भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मुझे रिलीजियस ब्लास्फेमी से प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. that that person is still a man of principles. But Zubair is not a man of principles. And that's where my disagreement with him comes from. He has, we have discussed what he did recently with that video. And apart from that, he has been taking multiple uh, ridiculous and ridiculing comments on multiple Hindu deities with an intention to insult them, and there was no comic value whatsoever, which I could see. And so when I'm so angry about someone making comments on my religion, I have absolutely no moral right to make such comments on someone else's religion. And if I'm facing consequences, so I should not expect people to support me. And not only Zubair, I also took a dig at the people जो कल बोल रहे थे कि फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच की बहुत सारे एक्सेप्शंस होते हैं, ये होते हैं, एंड today they have turned like हाँ कुछ भी sacred नहीं होता, we have absolute freedom of speech should be the norm of the day. So I think whether it is the legal right or the moral right, Zubair has neither of them, and I do not support him at all.
ज़ेबा, क्योंकि आप लॉ बैकग्राउंड से आती हैं और ये जो अभी अरेस्ट हुआ है ज़ुबैर के ऊपर, तो लोगों को लग रहा है ये सिर्फ ब्लास्फेमी के रीज़न से हुआ है, जबकि इसमें सेक्शन 153 है,
53 153A, yeah.
153 ए है। तो प्लीज़ आप थोड़ा सा इसका समरी बताइए, तो ताकि हमारे दर्शकों को समझ में आ सके।
So first of all, I would like to say that as far as the current legality of India is, you cannot hurt any religious sentiment, period. And what Zubair did was exactly that, where he proved and insulted God and goddesses of a particular community in India again and again. That is not once. He repeated it, again and again. And when you are expecting other community to respect your religious sentiment, that you also better do the same. You need to respect, and respect is something that you take and is not that is given, and it's not a one-way street. And coming to the legality, so one 295A in IPC, so back in 1957 the constitutionality of it was decided, and 295A in IPC does not penalize any or every act of insult or attempt to insult of any religion or any class of religion belief, but it only takes a dig where you have malicious intent. So in law we have a thing called mens rea. So mens rea is the mental intention. So you need to prove. So whoever comes with a case where you are accusing that particular person with 295A of IPC, you have to prove that he had a malicious intent. And we also have a proximity test. So you have to prove that the speech or the words or the entire written element that the particular accused have given has a proximity of creating public disorder, or or communal conflict of violence that we could see via his tweets. So the sections that are given upon him are sort of, can we can see that his tweets do culminate into such sections. Yeah.
What about 153A, Zeba, where he's promoting enmity between two communities?
See, in 153A, the both the section, you need to show that he had an intention and he had malicious intent of creating or promoting enmity. So you do not have to per se prove that his tweet led to that violence, but his entire wording and how previous acts which he have done. So everything will be seen, and the due course of process will take into action of how much influence he has, what kind of wordings you have used. Is it provocative enough to create violence, mob violence, or public disorder per se. So 153A deals with promoting enmity between different groups of the society, and 295A deals with hurting religious sentiment. So the entire case that was based was on a post that he posted, and also there are certain other FIRs that we are not aware of. So we have to see how the case proceeds to see what are the kind of elements, and several FIRs have been given. So one of them is the post that he has posted. So yeah.
Right. Also, Amina, if we start from first, the irony is that, when he clipped out that selective footage from that Times Now video, where he took out the context of, how, and here on the screen you can see, I mean, he's done like a dozen blasphemies, dozen posts where he's taken digs at, people from the majority Hindu community. And then he has deleted this account, right? And he has deleted his tweets, he's deleted his posts. So he's not done it 10 or 20 times, it's even up to 30 times. And then the same person, incited passions where he thought that he can use that blasphemy against Muslim sentiments to settle ideological scores, right? Now the thing is, even in that Amna, if we saw that he took it out selectively. He did not show the previous speaker, if I'm getting the name right, Taslim Rahmani, who was being very abusive about Hindu gods and sentiments, so that at least he could have shown that what had transpired before that. So that intention, also that malice with what he knew exactly what he's getting into it, and the global patterns he knows about the blasphemy and what has happened to people who've been accused of it. How innocents get killed under this law in Pakistan, and a lot of civil liberty champions and human rights champions of Pakistan are trying to tell that, because you cannot, if you put that tag on someone, after that, right? Today you've seen a killing of someone who's not even that person. You've seen someone who was put up a post, in support of the person who is on target. Now the thing is, Amna, when that happened, and I remember you were one of the first few people to tell him that, why are you starting this fire? He threw you also to the wolves, saying that, you are coming in my way, right? In a way, he was acting as like the blasphemy certificate, owner who would issue it.
Exactly.
After that, right, abuses came to you as well. And it's ironic that we were the ones who first warned him, saying that not only are you bringing disrepute to the country, not only are you're bringing disrepute to Islam, to Muslims, and this is not the way to go about it, right? After that, they were so adamant, their gang mafia, whether it was Kavita Krishnan, whether it was Pratik Sinha, they kept on then sharing and telling Muslims that, what, we have even the version with us. And here you can see Arfa, doing open blasphemy. The same person saying, that. And so to continue with that, your Rana again, you can see, right? And this is a very, very dangerous cabal, because they want to thrust this on you that this is okay as long as it's the Hindu faith. If it's our faith, we will not even act like the moderates. We will just go for your head. Now, when we said that, Amina, after that we saw that they were so adamant that they were ready to throw everyone to the wolves, who was even challenging that this is not the way to go about it, right? We quoted some of the greatest scholars. They did not buy that. Also, what happened was that later, once Times Now took it down, they were still sharing it, saying we have the footage. You can see the amount they were trying to rile up, right? That actually led to rioting in at least 8 to 10 cities, right? It led to rioting. Atif, I'll just come to that in a while, right? It led to rioting. It led to the irony here is, this is such a carnivorous cabal. It broke my heart that 16-year-old boy, if you guys remember, Mudassir, who died in rioting, who these guys sitting in their AC comfort chairs, and not even there, sitting in some luxurious resort in Kerala, were egging on that, see, something wrong has done. He had no clue, right? And they went into violent clashes with the police. That kid died in the firing. Okay. Then they used his dead body only to shame their ideological opponents, taking away again the context that, in a violent clash with security forces, these things will happen. And do you know, guys, what happened? That Mudassir's 10th standard result came out a few days back, where the boy had scored 66%. Poor Muslim boy. And it was a heart-shattering headline where his mother said that he said, I will do better and get a better job and get you out of all this. And the ones who egged him around this cabal, you know where Arpa Khanum Sherwani is right now? She's in Hawaii, one of the most touted holiday destinations for even millionaires in the world. So she's in Hawaii. Rana keeps on taking her trips to US and UK. And this is what they do with young Muslim boys like Mudassir, right? And then killings like Udaipur of a Hindu man. And the irony is that our community needs to understand that even if, let's say, you are still going to be this confrontational ideological opponent just for the heck of it, not wanting to evolve, not wanting to have a dialogue and work in a vacuum and have a attitude of exceptionalism in everything, where equality seems like oppression. In the case of Zubair, that he can go and abuse for years and years, and then he can issue certificates of death and put a hanging sword over the life of the opponent and be ruthless and remorseless in it. And when equality is called legal, it's the legal way things are going with him, right? Then the issue is that, don't you understand, these are powerful people. So you can't be victim. Like, if victim is Mudassir, victim is the guy who's being killed, or the, but the power guys are these guys, right? That they have powerful positions where they can drive this unrest and anarchy in the country, right? Whereas Swara Bhaskar goes on NDTV and calls one thing hate speech, the other thing she calls it's his speech. So you should not get confused by these decoys of their identities where you see a Hindu and Muslim. Because, see, at the end of the day, the most important thing the youth needs to understand is where they fool you is with these identities, because ultimately they are just self-serving cabal, right? Where they tell you, oh, see, the Hindus backing his thing, so what's your problem? But at the principle, you have to ask this question to yourself, that are you okay with this cancerous secularism which they thrust, coming from communists and Islamists who hate the hell out of India, where they're saying, oh, you know what? Regarding a religion, go and blaspheme and insult them and mock them and shame them every day. B, protect them. Don't even allow civil discourses of free thinkers within, not even moderate Islamic scholars, right? And just because there is a certain section within the Hindu community, they can say, "Dekho na, inka support hai." But does it make it right on the principal point? Isn't that what then gives the reaction, right? So that is what I wanted to say, Amna. And what would
Right.
you see that as?
Look, there is a lot of the problem is that when I see and I look and I hear to Hindu society, so there is a diversity of opinion. Like some people literally follow the principle of absolute freedom of speech, like Anand Rangnathan. But the other hand, there are people who are saying ki if there is any law regarding blasphemy, that should be applied equally to every community, right? So you see, even in a right winger, you can see those who call themselves right winger or nationalist, you can see there is some honesty when it comes to principles, at least, but still there is a diversity. Problem here is with the Muslim community, the community I come from, there is no diversity. People are not talking about कि if what would be fair, right? एंड क्या प्रॉब्लम है, क्या हम लोगों के साथ डिफरेंट बिहेवियर हो रहा है, ये उनका प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. दे आर नॉट डिमांडिंग सेम राइट्स. दे जस्ट केयर कि आप जो है ये चीज नहीं कर सकते, द ब्लास्फेमी थिंग. अब नाउ द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट कि ठीक है ब्लास्फेमी क्योंकि लॉ ऑफ लैंड है, एग्जैक्टली वी कांट डू दैट, बट उसको हम डील कैसे करेंगे, विच आई केप्ट सेइंग, डील तो हमें लीगली ही करना होगा, राइट? वहां पे जो इशू है, द स्ट्रीट वीटो, स्ट्रीट पावर सेक्शन ऑफ मुस्लिम इज शोइंग, एंड दैट इज गेटिंग यूज्ड बाय द cabal for their bigger agenda. That is a very problematic, because even you see the street power, even you see these people who are problematic, आप उनको लॉ एंड ऑर्डर से डील कर सकते हो, बट जब ये एक नरेटिव फैलाया जाता है कि look, there is going like kind of human right violation, genocide and blah blah blah, then state चारों तरफ से घिर जाती है, you know. And the people like us coming from the Muslim community, हमारे साथ भी यही होता है. If you see entire liberal, जो कबाल अपने आप को लिबरल बोलता है, बट बेसिकली वो लिबरल नहीं है, बिकॉज लिबरल वर्ड को उन्होंने गाली बना दिया. मैं लिबरल हूँ, तू लिबरल है, दे आर नॉट लिबरल. उमर लिबरल है, जेबा लिबरल है, एंड अ लॉट ऑफ राइट विंगर्स आई सी दे आर इवन लिबरल. तो उन्होंने लिबरल के ऊपर जो टैग अपना एक कब्जा जमा लिया है, और उसके साथ वो साथ किसका दे रहे हैं, जुबैर का, अरफा का, राना का, द पीपल हु थिंक्स कि वो मॉक कर सकते हैं हिंदू के गॉड को, हिंदू सेंटिमेंट को, बट किसी ने अगर उनको कुछ कह दिया, किसी ने कुछ बोल दिया, अगर वो गलत भी है, तो ऐसे प्रिटेंड करते हैं, ऐसे दिखाते हैं जैसे कि दे आर द बिगेस्ट विक्टिम ऑफ द अर्थ, उनके साथ सबसे बड़ा अन्याय हुआ है, राइट? जबकि दे आर द बिगेस्ट प्रिविलेज ऑफ द अर्थ, बिकॉज यू नो इवन समवन हैज अ प्रिविलेज, उसकी प्रिविलेज की अकाउंटेबिलिटी तो होती है, उसको सुनने को तो मिलता है कि यू आर अ प्रिविलेज. दीज पीपल एंजॉय ऑल काइंड ऑफ प्रिविलेज एंड देन दे बिकम द विक्टिम. इससे बड़ा क्या प्रिविलेज होगा आपका? तो ये
they,
सब
I know, Amna, they are bullies who play victim. They
एग्जैक्टली
are
देयर द
privileged bullies who play victim. They can get away with everything and anything in India.
एग्जैक्टली
And
सो
having
एक
best of both the worlds.
sorry for the voice in background. So
No, that's what
one
I'm saying. They're having best of both the worlds.
exactly, and look what happened. The ordinary citizen, like I talk about Pashmanda, but most of us are like common citizen, ordinary citizen coming from middle class. We want there to be peace. Okay, and ये बहुत you know a lot of Muslims are there जो disagreement होगा, but they don't want violence and chaos to happen on the street because उनको पता है कि इसके क्या repercussion होंगे और क्या उनको झेलना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, तो हम जैसे ऐसे बहुत से लोग हैं, but they will keep silence. They won't come out, they won't say anything, even they disagree, they would be like कि shut up, हमें बोल के क्या फर्क पड़ेगा. ठीक है, चलो उसके पर आई थिंक वी हैव डिस्कस्ड अ लॉट अबाउट इट. बट एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा जो मैं सुनती हूँ वो बात आती है एब्सोल्यूट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच की. सो एब्सोल्यूट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच की बात आती है, एंड आई वाज लिसनिंग टू आनंद रंगनाथन, अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा, अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल. आई डू नॉट अग्री विद देम. देखो एक सच्चाई माननी पर, देखो दे टॉक इन अ टर्म लाइक एब्सोल्यूट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच इज एन सम काइंड ऑफ ऑब्जेक्टिव जो अगर हम पा लेंगे तो हमारा इंडिया सुनहरा हो जाएगा. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. एब्सोल्यूट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच इज अ मीन, क्योंकि अगर वो रहेगा तो वो बेटर है, क्योंकि हमारी सोसाइटी को फ्रीली डिस्कशन का मौका मिलेगा. So yes, absolute freedom of speech needed, but at which cost we have to understand that also. We have to acknowledge कि हमारे स्टेट के पास क्या रिसोर्सेज हैं, हम कितने स्ट्रॉन्ग हैं, हम कितना हैंडल कर सकते हैं. Also look, we nowhere else any place I see as I see India जहाँ पे इतने मेजर कम्युनिटी. सॉरी मेरा वॉइस का बैकग्राउंड वॉइस बहुत ज्यादा है. खाली आई थिंक यू टेक गो अहेड, आई विल कंप्लीट माय पॉइंट लेटर.
नहीं, it's okay. We can hear you.
आवाज काफी ज्यादा नहीं आ रही है?
नहीं, it's
नहीं नहीं, we can hear you.
अच्छा, सो जहाँ पे इतनी सारी कम्युनिटीज रहती हैं, तरह तरह के, इतनी डाइवर्सिटी है, उनके सेंसिबिलिटी अलग है. इफ रिलीजन की सेंसिबिलिटीज की बात की जाए, मोस्टली हमारे जो इंडिया ने जो सेक्युलरिज्म अपनाया वो ऐसा नहीं अपनाया जो फ्रेंच या टर्की का था, टोटली अलग कर देना. उन्होंने अपनाया कि हम सेंसिबिलिटीज को रिस्पेक्ट करेंगे, बट हम जो है सेक्युलर रहेंगे, स्टेट सेक्युलर रहेगा. वहाँ पे लेकिन एक गड़बड़ और हो गई कि ये कहने के बावजूद हिंदुज्म के अंदर स्टेट ने बहुत इंटरफेयर किया. दैट जहाँ से प्रॉब्लम की स्टार्ट होती है कि अगर वो बात भी बोलते और वो सब पे अप्लाई करते तो बहुत अच्छा होता, बट हिंदुज्म के अंदर इंटरफेरेंस होता ही रहा. स्टिल आई वुड से कि इंडिया की हिस्ट्री रही है लोगों की सेंसिबिलिटीज को एड्रेस करने की. इवन आई रिमेम्बर आज तक पारसी समुदाय बहुत छोटा है, बट उन्होंने आज तक मेरे ख्याल से सिर्फ एक बार ही राइट किए हैं. राइट क्या किए, बहुत गुस्सा हो गए थे बिकॉज दे कंसिडर डॉग एज अ सेक्रेड एनिमल. और जब मुंबई में उनको पकड़ रहे थे तो वो बहुत गुस्सा हो गए थे, उन्होंने मुंबई बंद कर दिया था. सो ये जो फ्रीडम है ये इंडिया में सबको दी गई है, तो ये चीज सब पे अप्लाई होगी. यू कैन से द सिख कम्युनिटी इन एवरीवन, एवरीबॉडी गेट्स सो यू नो, बहुत ज्यादा उनको गुस्सा आ जाता है जब उनकी सेंसिबिलिटीज को हर्ट होता है. तो ये एक इशू है, और यही चीज आपने मुस्लिम को भी दी थी. नाउ द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट कि मुस्लिम आर नॉट रेडी टू बी इक्वल टू एवरीवन. दे वांट मोर एंड मोर. जो सब कम्युनिटी की जितनी सेंसिबिलिटीज रिस्पेक्ट हो रही है, आपकी भी उतनी ही होगी. सर तन से जुदा आप नहीं कर सकते हो, राइट? तो ये सारी जो बातें हैं, ये जो बातें हैं, ये समझाएगा कौन उनको? ये कबाल जिनको समझाना चाहिए. हाँ, उमर यू गो है.
हाँ, so I was just saying कि talking about absolute freedom of speech के होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए, and I remember Atif raised a good question also कि इंडिया में blasphemy law होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए. तो I think my perspective on that would be that of course in an idealistic society, in a utopia, if we imagine, of course everybody would have freedom to say anything without any consequences. ठीक है, but is it practical? ये तो वही बात है कि हाँ, एक कम्युनिस्ट यूटोपिया सुनने में तो कम्युनिज्म भी बच्चों को बहुत अपील करता है ना, चाहे वो 40-45 साल के भी हों, लेकिन वो भी बच्चे ही हैं. उनको ये चीज अपील करती है सबके पास इक्वल है, सबके पास ऐसा होना चाहिए, वैसा होना चाहिए. बट डज इट हैपन इन द रियल लाइफ? सो while talking about social issues, we have to understand social engineering and social structures. So human beings are not built that way. And at least today, even United States जो है प्रोग्रेसिव होने का supposedly the zenith of being progressive, वहां पर भी सेडिशन को लेकर लॉज हैं, वहां पर भी एब्सोल्यूट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच नहीं है, वहां पर भी कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज हैं, लीगल कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज हैं. So there is no society in the world right now that has 100% freedom of speech.
एग्जैक्टली.
और रही बात इंडिया में 295A की, तो जब तक हम लोग इतने इवॉल्व नहीं हो जाते कि हम लोगों को मारने के लिए ढूंढ रहे हैं ओवर वर्ड्स, और जब तक हमारे बीच में ऐसे लोग घूम रहे हैं हु आर सो बारबैरिक, तो एटलीस्ट ये एक लीगल तरीका है टू वेंट आउट. जब तक वो लोग हैं तब तक 295A का रहना जरूरी. ऑफ कोर्स आई एम नॉट अ सपोर्टर ऑफ 295. आई हैव बीन अ विक्टिम ऑफ इट माई सेल्फ. I would be the last person, but still I would say कि जब तक ऐसे बारबैरिक लोग घूम रहे हैं, when we have evolved to that level, जब हम समझ सकते हैं इस बात को कि हाँ फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच होना चाहिए सब लोगों के पास without any consequences, then maybe we can do some legal reforms, but not today.
Right.
And
Zeba,
एक
if
चीज
you,
एक
yeah.
खाली
Yeah,
लेट मी ऐड यू समथिंग. ये जो लॉ की बात होती है, ये लॉ सिर्फ इसलिए नहीं होता है कि ये सिर्फ रैशनल एंड लॉजिक पे होता है. लॉज कई बार आपकी ग्राउंड रियलिटी पे बनने होते हैं. इफ यू सी मोस्ट ऑफ द लॉ इज अ प्रो विमेन, जेंडर न्यूट्रल नहीं है, क्योंकि हमारी रियलिटी ये मानी जाती है कि विमेन सोसाइटी में अपलिफ्टमेंट की ज़रूरत है. देयर इज सर्टेन लॉ जहाँ पे बात जो गुजरात के अंदर ही हुआ था, जो आई डोंट रिमेम्बर द नेम, जिसमें आप घर नहीं खरीद सकते इन सर्टेन सेक्शन,
हाँ,
राइट. तो वो लॉ भी क्यों था? क्योंकि हमारी कुछ ग्राउंड रियलिटी है, जब तक हम उसको सॉल्व नहीं कर सकते तब तक वो लॉ वहां पे रहेगा. आज की डेट में देखो, बहुत अच्छा लगता है, आई वांट टू गो आउटसाइड इन नाइट, मैं रात के 10 बजे जाना चाहती हूँ, बट नहीं है रियलिटी, मैं नहीं जा सकती हूँ. द डे इंडिया विल अचीव दैट पॉइंट कि जहाँ पे रात के 10 बजे भी मेरा बाहर जाना सेफ हो, आई वुड एडवोकेट कि हाँ मैं वहाँ पे जाऊंगी. एंड एक मैंने ट्वीट भी लिखा था स्पेशली कि फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, वेल डन, मुझे भी ये आइडिया बहुत अच्छा लगता है, बट आई वोंट सपोर्ट इट एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ इनोसेंट मिडिल क्लास पीपल के ब्लड पे, राइट. जब क्योस होगा तो किसका घर जद में आएगा? हम जैसे लोगों का आएगा. तो अगर आप जो वहां पे बैठ के बातें कर रहे हैं, आप आओ सड़कों पे, आप इसके लिए पे करने को तैयार हो, ओके फाइन इनफ, बट व्हाई दोस पीपल, ऑर्डिनरी पीपल हु हैव, मतलब जिनका कुछ भी लेना देना नहीं है, हु आर नॉट इवन इंटरेस्टेड इन सच इश्यूज एंड पॉलिटिक्स, उनके घरों में क्यों हम आग लगाएं? मे बी इट्स नॉट वेरी इवॉल्व thought, but for me that's very practical thing. Ziba, you go
Right.
ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Zeba, your viewpoint on Atif's question that should the blasphemy law have a place in India?
Yeah, as far as the meta narrative or normative perspective is concerned, with respect to blasphemy laws in 21st century in our country, my stand is pretty simple. The onus to provide security to remain in the hands of is in the hands of law through law enforcement, and if the least common denominator in a society, that is an individual, cannot be protected, then it's the failure of the state. So hence, if the blasphemy laws or 295A needs to be reviewed or abrogated completely, then you need to bring in judicial and law enforcement reforms. So policing should become stronger if you want to get away with blasphemy laws in a country, and should be given much wider perspective and presence. So we in India have one of the worst police to citizen ratio in the world. This is a broader issue and one of the reason why mob violence prevails here in our country. And I think we need to start discussing individual rights in India rather than group rights. And it's ironical how, for example, atheists are also totally excluded in India and from the discussion, and their freedom of expression is also violated. So if you want to do away with such laws, it's vital to emphasize on individual liberty. And the moment you there are laws themselves are such that you are inherently saying and hurting religious sentiment, and you are pandering into mob violence and mob culture. So hence understanding this aspect is crucial, as Amna elaborated. And if law enforcement cannot be reformed, and if the state cannot guarantee individual right, then 295A or the blasphemy laws is the only deterrence mechanism. And again, group identity politics will prevail, and I hope Home Ministry or the PMO or the Ministry of Law and Social Justice start looking into it. And when you speak about absolute freedom of expression, it is one of the most fundamental thing that can happen is people who peddle lie can be exposed and who can be effectively counter-proved. So secondly, when people who harbor extremist ideology and views will also eventually be exposed, and which makes it easier for law enforcement authorities to take actions against such individual. And until and unless we evolve as a community, as a society, I think this kind of law will remain as a deterrence mechanism. So yeah.
Right. Amna, I want to answer this question of Atif Bhai a little differently. With regards to this question, I mean, Umar has put his perspective. Zeba, you, so Atif, three of them have already answered this. But I want to state this categorically and on the basis of facts and on the basis of civilization, theology, away from this politics and something which dates to thousands of years. Being the world's most diverse religious country on the face of this planet amongst 200 countries, the credit to that goes to the largest community of India, right? It's always the majority who decides that what will the minorities have. Sadly, for that largest majority community, you have a lot of minorities with so much of entitlement and exceptionalism that it's they who actually drive the whole intolerance thing and accuse them of it. Now, here is the interesting thing, Atif, and to the viewers as well. If the largest community has allows 7 other faiths to grow, flourish, and to be celebrated, they are already basically accepting blasphemy against their core faith. Because every faith is blasphemy for another faith. The very virtue of a counter idea of, like, if I say I have a different faith to your faith, is because I'm committing blasphemy against your faith, right? So what more tolerance does this community have to give when it is accommodating 7 other faiths and saying you're ready to commit daily blasphemy against my worldview, right? And yet when it takes the legal action, it is accused of fascism, and when others just resort to unlawful extrajudicial manner, that too is justified by this very dangerous cabal. Coming back to this dangerous cabal, here is another irony. Zubair gets support from foreign media, right? From all those nations who right now are anti-India. This is the level at which these games are played, at the geopolitical level. He gets support from people within here as well, influential people, right, across the spectrum, and he gets access to one of India's most expensive lawyers in Vrinda Grover. Okay, so Vrinda Grover comes and argues his case. So you can see the money that is available here. And at the end of the day, who died? 2 young boys. One of the names I don't even remember. It's such a tragedy. Mudassir is the other one, right? And another Hindu man in Udaipur killed. Yes, Debrat asked that question. One of the viewers, we did see that and we condemn it. You have to back the law of the land, right? Now, here is another one, which brings me to Amna's point, and I want Umar to answer that first. Amna, if you could put out that tweet of yours, because we spoke enough about the Muslim extreme, but there is another weird thing that happens in India, and that is something the Hindu. So, Amna, you said according to majority of Hindu communists, a Muslim can mock a Hindu deity, hurt their sentiment, but Hindu cannot do so. So, Hindu community has dangerous self-loathing elements within. Umar, this is another problem we face as nationalist, peace-loving, secular, moderate people, that you have so many self-loathing Hindus who back, and they are in millions, right, at very influential positions, at affluent positions, who've held the previous power systems. Today also they hold the power systems in different capacities. You don't need to be in power to be in power. You know what I mean, right? In academia, movies and all, who back likes of Zubair, saying, yes, Zubair, I completely agree. You can play the chief blasphemer. You can play the blasphemy issuing certificate. I will together go with you with bloodthirsty mobs to settle score against my fellow Hindu. Right? In the same breath, Zubair, why don't you join me in mocking and ridiculing my faith? How frustrating does that feel, Umar, with your identity? And what do you make of this self-loathing Hindu who's an ally of likes of Zubair?
I think it is the most interesting creature in the whole world, because I don't understand where that self-loathing, where that guilt, where that self-hatred is coming from. Historically, India has not invaded any country. We understand white guilt, for example, that they have created havoc on across the globe. So Muslims can have that guilt that Islamic imperialism has been a thing, Arabic imperialism, where countless civilizations have been wiped off from the face of the earth, whether we talk about Iran or Syria or whatever. So, but India has not done that ever. And also, even talking about the current scenario, they have understood this game that this diversity of opinion in Hindu community is too much, actually, like what Amna mentioned. So these people understand that Muslims uh, can be used as their sheep, and they can be manipulated. So Muslim youth are manipulated by the likes of these, and they use it to build their fortunes. Number one, and they use it to build their political careers, and this creates a lot of problem for people like us, because we want to represent the community. We are also a part of Muslim society, but these people will never acknowledge that this is also the voice. A patriotic Muslim, a nationalist Muslim is their biggest nightmare, because they have sold the dream that Muslims are oppressed, victimized, persecuted, most ignored community in the world. And there are writers. If you look at their tweets, it feels like they are reporting directly from 1943 Germany, and they are talking on behalf of the Jews. उनके जो हालात हैं वो इतने इमरजेंसी वाले हैं, जैसे कि यहाँ पे पूरा सब खत्म हो गया है. ठीक है. So because they don't want things to get better, they want things to go worse, so that they can create more conflict and build more fortunes. So those people are actually the problem. एक बार को मुसलमान ये सोच सकता है कि हाँ, मेरे साथ यहाँ पे लीगल लेवल पे क्या परेशानी होंगी, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द इंडिपेंडेंस. ठीक है, आपको पहले तो पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड दिया. ठीक है, उसके बाद शाहबानो केस में आपके आगे झुक गई पूरी मेजोरिटी कम्युनिटी और पूरा जुडिशियल प्रोसेस. ठीक है, उसके बाद आपके पास वक्फ बोर्ड है. वक्फ बोर्ड इज द हाईएस्ट, थर्ड हाईएस्ट लैंड ओनर इन द होल कंट्री. ठीक है, उसके बाद आपके पास जो मदरसे हैं उनके पास फंडिंग आ रही है, मस्जिद के इमाम को सैलरी मिल रही है. मतलब व्हाट डू यू वांट? बट ये सब बातें एक मुसलमान इग्नोर करता है, क्योंकि जो हिंदू कम्युनिस्ट है या हिंदू लेफ्टिस्ट है उसको ये सिखाता है कि तुम्हें सिर्फ और सिर्फ इग्नोर किया गया है और तुम्हें सिर्फ और सिर्फ इस देश ने तुम्हें कुछ नहीं दिया है. सो दैट पर्सन इज द प्रॉब्लम, एंड दैट इज द फर्स्ट एनिमी, इवन मच मोर देन एवरीवन एल्स, दैट वी हैव टू स्टैंड अप अगेंस्ट.
ज़ेबा, आपकी क्या सोच है ये विचित्र प्राणी दुनिया में, जो ये सेल्फ लोदिंग हिंदू जो खुद को सेक्युलर कहता है? How do you decode the psyche of these millions today, that they team up with Zubair, likes of Zubair, to target his ideological opponent, and at the same time they're fine with ki haan Zubair, you join us, you can abuse our faith, and while we ensure that nothing towards you can guard your faith. What makes the mind of such a Hindu?
See, on one hand, we say that everyone is entitled to an opinion, to their opinion, however stupid it may be, and that is what we call it as freedom of expression, and it is all about. But here the debate on the other side, as you pointed out, that these people also support and uplift the extremist ideas. So this has been going on for a very long time, and this is about liberalism of today. So not really about Hindu Muslims. So whoever adheres to such ideology is just a robot, and their lies will eventually be exposed, and it will only result in consolidation of Hindu votes. And when coming into this, topic, when we see in today's case of Zubairs also, the police, the special cell has also highlighted how he has had transactions of 50 lakhs in a matter of few days. So if I could recall, I think it was Hawkeye, which posted a tweet which elaborately mentioned how during the Khargaon and the bulldozer events which happened, then Mohammed Zubair and a not-for-profit Miles to Smile or Miles for Smile kind of organization, they literally in 2 days they raised 1 crore and 7 lakh rupees. So you can interlink this kind of and this is not only one community that have paid to those people. There will be a lot of Muslims and a lot of Hindus that have supported them. So when you are making a case where you are making a case, so you can also make a point of where you have FCRA violation in the donation. So if 1 rupee or 1 paise also went into your personal account, that could be really problematic. So you have to make a very big and a very strong case to make these people held accountable, which we are slightly negating it. So if you see today's news also, he formatted his phone, so you do not have any app, you do not have any contacts, so you cannot easily find how many international links or other links you had. So you formatted your whole phone. So if you do not have that malicious intent, if you do not have that mens rea that I talked about, if you do not have that, why will you do that? You do not want to provide your laptop. Merely his advocate Miss Grover said that we have private information because we are a fact checking organization, so we are not gonna give you the laptop and a phone. So if you're not really you're not in a you're not in a faulty condition, you're not going to do all those things. So that is something I
राइट।
wanted to.
एक्चुअली कल रात को मैं सुन रही थी किसी सीनियर जर्नलिस्ट को, और उन्होंने बोला कि लॉट ऑफ थिंग प्रतीक सिन्हा इज राइटिंग इज एग्जैजरेटेड। बेसिकली पुलिस ने उसको बोला कि अपना मोबाइल एंड जो डिवाइसेस है वो हमको हैंड ओवर करो, एंड उसने बोला मैं नहीं करूँगा। तो वो कोऑपरेट नहीं कर रहा था। दैट इज द रीजन वो उसको मजिस्ट्रेट के पास भी लेके गए थे। दैट वाज द रीजन, क्योंकि उनको चाहिए था, दे वांटेड टू हैव एविडेंस इन देयर हैंड। ऑल्सो उसके बाद पुलिस ने सिर्फ 1 दिन का ही रिमांड मांगा था और उनको 1 दिन का रिमांड नहीं मिला, जबकि प्रतीक सिन्हा हैज ट्वीटेड कि दे आस्क फॉर 7 डेज और 1 ही दिन का दिया, मेकिंग इट अ केस लाइक जैसे बहुत ज्यादा बुली, मतलब उसके साथ कुछ बहुत बुरा होने
जुल्म हो
वाला
रहा
है।
ना, बहुत जुल्म है। हाँ,
हाँ, एंड द ट्वीट्स आर लाइक कि हम जा रहे हैं, हमें पता नहीं है हम कहाँ से जा रहे
हाँ,
हैं। भाई आज के जमाने में गूगल मैप खोल लो, 2 सेकंड में मालूम पड़
No,
जाता है।
he could tweet from the van, but he could not use his GPS.
एग्जैक्टली एग्जैक्टली।
Classic commie guerrilla warfare which he's learned in Vietnam. पहली बात तो वियतनाम से इंजीनियरिंग कौन करता है? प्रतीक सिन्हा करता है, राइट?
अच्छा, इंजीनियर।
जी जी, और उस साल एक ही बंदा था इंडिया से जो वियतनाम इंजीनियरिंग के लिए गए थे, मिस्टर प्रतीक सिन्हा गए थे, राइट? और फिर वो
I
वापस
want to
आए।
fact check this. I want to fact check this कि वो वियतनाम से किया या नहीं किया।
बट ज़ुबेर
एक
तो
तो
गया ज़ू में, अभी कौन
राइट,
करेगा?
एक तो वो था, और दूसरी बात यह है कि जब वो प्रोपेगेंडा वेबसाइट चलाते थे ना गुजरात राइट्स पे, जिसपे इन सबनों करियर्स बनाए अपने मासूमों को मैनिपुलेट करके, तो ट्रुथ ऑफ गुजरात करके नाम रखा था सिन्हा ने। यू नो व्हाट देव डन, देव आर्काइव्ड दैट वेबसाइट, because now in the age of internet they don't want people to see that what bizarre claims used to be made. I mean, these are the same people who fact check terror organizations whether they wrote a letter properly and then say
स्पेलिंग
that
मिस्टेक।
you can see the sinister elements. And other thing I want to get the viewpoint of all of you guys, that when people like Zubair come to represent the community, like, and people like Pratik come to represent the Hindu liberal, in a way, not genuine Hindu liberals, but self-loathing communist who dreams of, breaking down Hinduism and India and then teaming up with weaponizing Muslims against them and other elements who want to. What do you make of the fact that then there will be apprehensions about the patriotism of the community, because Zubair, throughout this whole ordeal where blasphemy protests happened, he was more than willing communicating with Qatari handles and other Middle East handles, where he amplified it and told them, I can trace you to other people also who've done it. So this constantly, every time going to enemy nations and saying, you can help us out in fomenting issues and working as our allies against the majority community. How do you look at that, Omar? And then Zeba and Amna could come in.
I would just very briefly say he should go to Qatar and all those countries that he has friends with, और वहां पे he should run a campaign for like a week or so, the way he runs a campaign against the state in India. ठीक है, against the prime minister or the president, वहां पर जो establishment है उसके against he should run a campaign for a week. I'm saying a week क्योंकि उसके बाद वो कहाँ जाएगा वो उसको भी नहीं पता चलेगा, वो GPS भी उसका नहीं चल पाएगा, and he will not be uh, uh, able to locate it कि वो है कहाँ actually. The kind of freedom that he enjoys here, then the kind of civil liberties people have in those countries, whether it's Qatar or whatever, there is a drastic difference. So he should not take these liberties that are here for granted, and actually he should try doing that in some of those countries, and then he will get to know the kind of things he enjoyed here.
Umar, that reminded me again of a section of deluded Hindus, and you wrote a very witty reply of the guy who had an LGBT flag and he said, "I'm flying to Qatar." If you could tell the viewers what you told him then.
Yeah, so there was this person, I'm forgetting his name. So when this Qatar issue happened, he tweeted a photo that I'm flying Qatar Airways, and he says कि it's going to be a pain for the bhakts. So I was very concerned क्योंकि उसके नाम के आगे LGBT flag था. So I don't know whether he was a supporter or someone from the LGBT community himself. And I think that everybody has a right to be whatever they want to be, but unfortunately the Qatari establishment does not believe that. So I wrote to him कि उसने फिर बाद में ट्वीट किया कि बहुत खराब सर्विस थी, खाना ठीक से नहीं मिला हमको, कतार के एयरपोर्ट पे हमें डिटेन कर दिया 2 घंटा. तो ही वॉज वेरी, हाँ, रोहिन भट्ट, रोहिन भट्ट एग्जैक्टली. सो हमें डिटेन कर दिया. So I wrote to him that Bhatt Sahab, you should be glad that you are safe, क्योंकि कतार में homosexuality is punishable by death. So I was very concerned कि आप जिंदा वापस आएंगे नहीं आएंगे, क्या होगा. तो आपको 2 घंटा डिटेन किया, you are lucky that you are alive. So but he did not respond. I hope he saw that, and next time he's very careful going to Qatar because I care for his life.
रोहित भट्ट, आपको जिंदगी मुबारक हो, और क्या करें अब, फैसिस्ट इंडिया में रह के जी लीजिए जितनी आपकी मुश्किल जिंदगी है. तो
बस केयरफुल रहिए, ये झंडे वंडे लगाकर कलरफुल आप वहां मत जाइए, कतर वतर मत जाइए.
यहाँ कर सकते हैं, यहाँ आप कर सकते हैं. Zeba, the same question that I asked to Umar, this urge amongst Muslims like Zubair and his supporters to ask for foreign help, and then rightly your patriotism would be questioned, right?
Yeah, indeed. But my question is, how are you going to stop the foreign funds? How are you going to stop those, elements from helping you out? It is inevitable, right? So for our country's public order or legal provision and mechanism should be there. Stronger legal provision and mechanism should be there, so that if a particular state is found in falter, suppose like the incident that happened today in Udaipur also. So if you so you don't want such incidents to happen much more, you need to have a law enforcement there that can be passed through executive order directly from the President of India to tackle with such situation, where he or she can mobilize agencies like CRPF, right, to intervene. So unless and until we take a very stronger stance for our law enforcement, these kind of laws, these kind of incidents are bound to happen. So I just wish that our state wake up and act really stringently and take much improves and reforms our law enforcement. That is one of my biggest point.
The reality is that the fascist state is actually very weak, and in many ways it actually needs to buckle up and not ensure that the same state which gives you the liberty to have a million thoughts and million ideologies You cannot say that I want to break the same state and break the same country and that is my freedom. That is not negotiable, right? You are in a home. Within that home, it's the most liberal home where you can say, I believe in God, I don't believe in God. This is what I want to eat. This is what I don't want to eat. This is what I want to wear. This is what I don't want to wear. This is what I want to speak. This is what I don't want to speak, right? Live and let live. But you cannot say, now I want to break this house in all its rooms so that I merge with some utopian communist idea or this utopian Islamist idea. And those very people, Islamists like Zubair and communists like Pratik, can't say that we are secular, we are, Ram Rahim here, because that is what the propaganda has been sold, right? Gets me, Amina, to another thing on a very funny. If you could share that tweet, there were these lot of people who were mourning when Zubair got arrested, right? And you guys must have come across these very hilarious, hysterical tweets. But this takes the case. Amina, if you could share the tweet of Dushyant, whoever Dushyant is, there is no journalist in India who is doing as much for democracy and freedom as Zubair is. Okay, I mean, that is like another level, Arundhati Roy level journalism. This is why he's been arrested. But wait, this is actual blasphemy. I mean, this is what blasphemy looks like. Zubair's work is no less than done by Bapu and Baba Sahib. All right, this is blasphemy now. This can invoke some acts on him. India must peacefully protest as fiercely as they did when Bapu was arrested. Your thoughts, guys, on Dushyant? I mean, this much love, Dushyant, for Zubair. I'm afraid that Pratik might break up with Zubair. I mean, Dushyant, that's too much, Dushyant. Dushyant, don't cry so much. What do you say, Omar?
Being a a fan, I'm lost for words, but being a fan of what the great founding fathers of India have done. तो जब तक सी 295 होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट डिबेट. लेकिन 295 अभी है, तो मैं ऑफेंडिंग सेंटिमेंट्स के ऊपर मैं दुष्यंत अरोड़ा पे एफआईआर करने जा रहा हूँ आफ्टर दिस वीडियो. इन्होंने जो हमारे जज्बात को हर्ट किया है, मैं नहीं उबर पाऊंगा इस सदमे से. मेरे सेंटिमेंट्स बहुत हर्ट हो गए हैं. So that is what I have to say.
What do you think, Zeba? What exactly has Zubair done to be equated with Bapu and Baba Sahib?
The amount of fact checking he did day and night, midnight oil burn करके सबके लिए इतना पुण्य किया है, मतलब अब तो इतना डिजर्व है.
नेहरू जी ने जो है, नेहरू ने जो बोला था एट द स्ट्रोक ऑफ मिडनाइट, नेहरू ये कह रहे थे एट द स्ट्रोक ऑफ मिडनाइट व्हेन द वर्ल्ड स्लीप्स, जुबैर इज अवेक टू फैक्ट चेक द एवरीथिंग ऑन द इंटरनेट.
Amna, what do you think? Like, why is Dushyant so heartbroken?
I can understand what is there behind the पर्दा, वो तो उसी को पता होगा. बट आई वाज सेइंग कि गांधी जी के साथ तो है ना सिमिलैरिटी. गांधी जी भी तो बोलते हैं ना हिंदुओं को कि अगर तुम्हारे साथ बुरा भी करे मुस्लिम तब भी उनको माफ कर दो. तो जुबैर भी कैसे कुछ कहता है. तो वहाँ सिमिलैरिटी है भी.
वहाँ प्रतीक के साथ सिमिलैरिटी. प्रतीक बोलता होगा ना जुबैर और बाकी टीम मेंबर्स को, देखो ये जुबैर है, ये बहुत डिफरेंट और स्पेशल है, ये तुम्हारे को गाली देगा तुम्हारे कम्युनिटी को, तुम मत देना वरना जुबैर बहुत नॉटी हो जाता है.
अरे ये लोग जब वो काम करते होंगे ना बैठ करके, तो प्रतीक बोलता होगा कि जुबैर तुम लोग को गाली देगा तो तुम सुन लेना, तुम हिंदू हो, ठीक है, जुबैर को कुछ मत बोलना.
जुबैर का प्रिंसिपल है कि तुम्हारे कोई एक झूठ को फैक्ट चेक करे, तुम दूसरा झूठ आगे कर दो.
Exactly.
That is a similarity with Bapu.
अगर जुबैर को गुस्सा आता होगा और वो प्रतीक सिन्हा को एक थप्पड़ मारता होगा, तो प्रतीक सिन्हा कहते होंगे दूसरे पे भी मारो बेटा, तुम सताए हुए माइनॉरिटी.
Exactly.
नहीं, Dushyant Arora has taken the cake. Yeah.
Right.
Dushyant is like taken another level altogether. Dushyant, I mean, standing with Zubair, you've taken it to another level, you know. Hugging Zubair and loving Zubair. इतना प्यार तो प्रतीक भी नहीं करता उससे, तो that's the thing. So right. Lastly, बहुत सारे हैं, बहुत सारे.
And एक चीज मैं हाईलाइट करना चाहूंगी कि when I read this tweet, साइमा का, if there is any rule of law left, she should get arrested, shame on. And यहाँ पे वो जुबियर के साथ proudly खड़ी है, ठीक है. So and what is not, आयरनी बोलूँ या जो चीज़ मुझे शॉक देती है, जिससे मुझे सदमा लगता है, वो ये है कि दिस गर्ल कीप टॉकिंग अबाउट पीस, लव, आप हेट मत फैलाओ, आप ये मत करो। एंड उससे भी बड़ी चीज़ जो मुझे मतलब अचंभे में जिसको बोल के डालती है, वो है कि वो हिंदू किड्स होते हैं ना, अगर उनका कोई वीडियो आता है कुछ समथिंग लाइक दैट कि जहाँ पे उन्होंने ऐसी बातें कही शायद नहीं कहनी चाहिए, तो वो वहां जाके बोलती है कि तुम्हारे बच्चे कहाँ जा रहे हैं, देखो अपने बच्चों को संभालो, क्या हो रहा है इनके साथ। एंड आई एम लाइक कि तुम्हारे बच्चे कहाँ जा रहे हैं, तुम्हारी कम्युनिटी के, देखो क्या हुआ है उदयपुर में। राइट, वहां वो कभी एक बार नहीं जाएगी उनको सलाह एडवाइस देने, बट हिंदुओं को वो जाती है सिखाने की हाउ टू बी अ गुड हिंदू, बेसिकली हाउ
Right,
टू बी अ कम्युनिस्ट, हाउ टू बी अ सेल्फ
right,
लोदिंग हिंदू। सो
right.
एक तरफ, एंड नाउ ट्रेजेडी इज सच कि मैं किस चीज पे, जैसे अभी खाली वी वर टॉकिंग ओवर द कॉल आल्सो एंड यू सेड इन अ वेरी डिफाइन वे कि किस चीज पे ज्यादा हम दुखी हों, इस बात पे कि देयर इज अ लॉट टू डू विद इन द कम्युनिटी जहां हम बिलोंग करते हैं, जहां रिफॉर्म की जरूरत है, या इस बात पे हम ज्यादा दुखी हों कि हिंदू ऐसे हैं जो कि दे आर नॉट रेडी टू सी थ्रू इट, जबकि आपके सामने हर चीज अभी खुली किताब के जैसे है, उसके बावजूद आप नहीं देखना चाहते हैं। राइट। एंड
Amina is saying it in a very refined manner. Let me say it what I exactly said, and you guys can just give an answer which one you find more, and the viewers also. A section of Hindus who are dumb and a section of Muslims who are zombies. What pisses you off more?
एग्जैक्टली, सो ये दो कॉम्बिनेशन इतना डेंजरस है ना, एंड पीपल थिंक कि दिस इज लाइक नंबर में ये कम है, ये तो माइनॉरिटी है, ये तो ये ऐसा नहीं होता है, दे हैव सो मच पावर बिकॉज देयर इकोसिस्टम इज देयर फॉर वेरी लॉन्ग, स्टार्टिंग से इनका बनाया हुआ ही ये पूरा नरेटिव का इंडस्ट्री है। राइट,
Right,
तो इस
guys.
वजह से
First, you need to answer: is it the dumb section of Hindus who support the zombie sections of Muslims, or
let
the zombie section?
me no
Which one do
let
you
me
think
let
is
me
more
finish then,
pisses
yeah,
you
let me
off?
finish,
Okay,
let me finish.
sure.
So I हाँ, सो आई थिंक नाउ इट्स टाइम आ चुका है कि हिंदू, स्पेशली दोज हिंदू जो अवेकन हो चुके हैं, वो ये बात समझ लें कि उनकी फाइट सबसे पहले उनके विद इन सेल्फ लोथिंग हिंदू से है। जब तक आप उनको नहीं कर पाएंगे ना, उनसे नहीं एक लोहा ले पाएंगे, बाकी चीज आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते। ऑल्सो फ्यू थिंग्स आई वांट टू ऐड, आई डू अग्री व्हाट ज़िबा सेड कि देयर देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम बट द सॉल्यूशन कैन नॉट बी ओनली वन वे। सॉल्यूशन के लिए आपको मल्टीपल काम करना पड़ता है, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन लेवल पे काम करना होता है, लीगल लेवल पे काम करना होता है, सोशल लेवल पे काम करना होता है। अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल ओनली टॉक अबाउट मुस्लिम सोसाइटी रिफॉर्म, बट सिर्फ उसी से बात नहीं बनेगी। वो सोशल रिफॉर्म तो चाहिए चाहिए, हमारी स्टेट को बहुत मजबूत होना पड़ेगा, उनको लॉ एंड ऑर्डर मजबूत करना पड़ेगा, इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे जो है लॉ फ्रेम करने पड़ेंगे, ऑल्सो जो लॉ है वो प्रॉपर इम्प्लीमेंट करना पड़ेगा। सो ये दो तीन चीजें हैं, एंड हिंदू शुड नाउ start addressing those Hindus and how dangerous they are. Even I feel कि they are more dangerous than those zombies Muslim. Let me be very fair, because
Amina
उनका
has
किया हुआ,
given her verdict.
exactly, I feel कि they are more dangerous now. Umar and
Umar and
Zeba.
Zeba, who do you think is pisses you off more?
I think the
I would
ones.
just, I would just say, yeah, Zeba, yeah, please say.
No, no, you go ahead.
So I was just saying, I would not put it in those exact terminologies, but I would say someone who is uh, too much tolerant of intolerance is the biggest intolerant himself. Because at the end
Beautiful,
of the day,
beautiful.
only intolerance will remain. So that is
Absolutely.
my verdict of that.
Very well put. Zeba?
I think I will always be critical about my own community. So I'll be
Right.
pointing out the ones who, the recent tweet that you shared of Saima, you're talking about rule of law. We are also talking about rule of law, but on one side you are giving the power to you are justifying mob violence on one hand, and again you'll take the point that rule of law prevail karna chahiye. How will rule of law prevail when you're giving the power veto to the people who are literally destructing public property? You are killing people. You are these kind of people will go on first class tickets abroad. I also want my community, my the youth of our country to also fly first class, and I want them to hone their own skills. And I do not want, any citizen of a country to, you know idol worship or believe in someone who, says anything. You have to just um, see, hone your own skills and develop in such a way that you also fly first class like them. I want every citizen of our country to develop. You have like Khalid ji, you always mention about IPL cricketers, right? They are a star too. There are so many Muslim,
Absolutely.
Zareen also, who is there, who is not someone who is coming from a very privileged section. Neither
Umran Malik, one of the fastest pace bowlers from Jammu, just made his international debut day for yesterday.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we have so many people who are working on their skills, who are working towards, nation building. They are also privileged to fly on first class. They are also privileged to get all the Padma Bhushan, all the eminent awards that are given to other people. So I want you all to, me including everyone, to give them a good battle in a very, true manner. You just work on your own skills. You do not have to
Absolutely.
believe in other people what they say is true or not. You do not have to believe in the fact checker that they are fact checking it properly or not. You can do your own research, you can do everything to excel, and this country will support you till the end. So that is my
Absolutely.
conclusion.
Absolutely. And what you wish for your children is what you should wish for children of lesser God as well. That's what Islam teaches as well. Atif asked a question that why is Khalid always angry? I have the answer, Atif. I'm angry because nobody loves me the way Dushyant loves Zubair. That kind of love is not something I ever got. So that's why I'm very angry on it.
Hmm.
Right.
And I am
So
and I am and I am happy that nobody loves me the way Dushyant loves because that looks very dangerous. That's like a maddening levels. That's like
it's like
stalking levels.
it's like I can imagine like Dushan going on a late night candlelight dinner with Zubair. It's like, what do you see in me? Is like both Bapu and Ambedkar. It's like
But, uh,
right.
yeah.
So
I think
another
I
last.
think Khalid, your name should be changed to Angry Golu
Okay, I agree, Golu.
from
Last
now
thing I
on.
want to talk about, Amna, if you could get that screenshot about with the viewpoints of two known public intellectuals in India today who are driving a discourse in nationalist space, Dr. Anand Raghunathan and Aarti Tikku. I'd want, lastly, we'd finish off with that. Now, here's the thing, Amna, Zeba, and Umar. Here are people of principles, right? Anand Raghunathan, even though he's an ideological opponent of the Zubair and Pratik gang, Islamists and communists, he is sticking to principles of freedom of speech. We can argue how idealistic or how practical it is and whether it is there. Aarti takes even a more principled stand because Zubair threatened Aarti in a sexist post under his fake name Subramanian Swami. I know that pic was also very dangerous. It showed a girl who was scared and someone coming in the room and telling her, "Hey, Aarti, we are here." They were Supari agents that they were given a job of task in alt news to put a Supari piece against her. But she too is saying that I would not support this. But here is the other problem. Amna, you can take that screen off. Here's the other problem, and which I believe equally has merit. People said to both Aarti and Anand, while this is laudable and it's admirable that you don't want to pay your ideological opponents in the same coin, but here is the dilemma, Umar, Zeba, and Amna. Umar and Pratik are remorseless. They are remorseless because they have singularity of thought. The ideology they support is that of Naxalite terrorists and Islamist terrorists who are very clear that they have to kill the security forces of India. This is the same that gets replicated by likes of them, just that they hide it behind fancy terms and bring in human rights and all that. Right? It's a term, human rights, which scares me because since childhood communists have used this, and it means the rights of terrorists and rioters and all. When there is no level playing field, when they are adamant on getting someone's head and provoking masses right after right, not even allowing Amina to say, please take the legal course, don't burn the country down, throwing her also to the wolves, being unapologetic about the hit jobs they've done on many people, even on Swati Goel Sharma, was one of the finest journalists, and they are very clear that for their target, they'll just eliminate him. So how do you see the honest principle stand of someone like Aarti and Anand against the background of the fact that भाई लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड नहीं है वो, दूसरा इज क्लियर, ही वांट्स टू एलिमिनेट यू, वहां कोई सिंपैथी एम्पैथी नहीं है, उसके लिए बहुत क्लियर हो, तुम नेशनलिस्ट हो, इंडियन आर्मी हो, सेक्युलरिस्ट ट्रू फॉर्म में हो, इक्वालिटी मांगते हो सारे मजहबों के लिए, उसको नहीं चाहिए. तो उमर, फर्स्ट इफ यू कुड कम इनटू दिस इशू.
So yeah, like I said in the beginning also that this is a principled stand, and Anand Ranganathan and Aarti Tikku both have, of course, it is laudable in its own way that despite Aarti Tikku, despite being at the forefront of things with Zubair, so she has taken. So it requires a lot of integrity and respect. So I agree with that stand in a way that, of course, they should be in an idealistic way because Arvind Ranganathan is also a free speech absolutist. Even I would say that I'm a free speech absolutist, as I have explained earlier. I would not go into that again. But that is for the practical purposes in India. That is a different thing. But yeah, there is no level playing field. The other person has no interest in a level playing field at all. The other person is not a man of principles, and the other person is a coward. First of all, we have to make this very clear. Someone who kills an unarmed civilian is a coward. In fact, even if the killing today in Udaipur or any other killing, or for that matter, of an unarmed civilian, the newspapers should read one coward or two cowards killed this particular unarmed civilian in this particular city. The way, in the name of human rights, these terrorists are glorified and then they are shown as if they have done something great. That is the problem. So the other person is glorifying terrorism, the other person is glorifying street justice, vigilantism. So in that case, one has to understand the practicality, and idealistic stand is very good. I appreciate it, but one has to understand what actually we are in a state of emergency. So we have to take our stands according to that.
Right. Zeba, how do you look at the moral dilemma with the stands of Anand Ranganathan and Aarti, where they truly want an evolved society, but when it hits the reality of how this cabal works, then it is something which doesn't seem to. How do you look at it?
See, I will agree to both of you. In an ideal world, even I want absolute freedom of expression, because that is when, the peddlers, the lie peddlers will be, we can effectively counter them, and even the extremist ideologies that are, or the extremists that are, we could harbor them, and we could cater out that these are the people that are, are affecting the entire public disorder whatsoever. But here, in reality, these people are, even if he is arrested, if we do not have a very strong case, he'll come out, he'll be a superstar like Rana 2.0, and they will keep, they'll have a bigger mass, they'll have a bigger supporting, they'll keep on with their agenda. So I want a precedent to be set once and for all. And I don't think like we are, as a society, we are here at the point that we could promote, and both side can have absolute freedom of expression when one side is, but the other side is not willing to, give up their evil intentions. So they'll keep on, they'll go on with their agendas and lies. So I want these, at least when he is brought under the court of law, I want the law to take into consideration of all the facts. And as a law student, I believe in judiciary, and I want that, justice must prevail, and I want this to be a very strong case, so that he is liable to all the things that he have done, and which people will not believe, right, um, that he has the power to even incite mob violence, or he, with his tweets, also made the Gulf countries involved in our internal issues. So there is a lot going on in this plate, so I would just want to see how this case goes ahead.
Right. Amna, if you could put your views on this, that how do you see Anand and Arti's comments, which are laudable, and they say it from a position of the country reaching a very evolved space, but प्रैक्टिकलिटी के शीशे पे जब वो गिरता है तो वो टूट जाता है, तो हाउ डू यू सी दैट?
राइट, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल एक खुशखबरी है, साइमा ने फाइनली मुझे ब्लॉक कर दिया ट्विटर पे.
अच्छा.
Okay, because I said कि all this killing is on you. Basically, you were the one to create this mayhem, and
Right.
you never take any interest to in reform within the community. So that is my gift. So on that note, जो ये बात है मैंने आई थिंक पहले ही बोल दी थी कि आई सी इट कि ठीक है, आई गेट इट कि यू आर पैशनेट अबाउट सर्टेन आइडिया एंड आइडियोलॉजी एंड प्रिंसिपल्स, बट आई एम मोर ऑन द साइड ऑफ what um, what repercussion, what consequences will be there for ordinary people. So वो मेरे लिए ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. ठीक है, आई ऑल्सो वॉन्ट टू हैव अ फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच, एब्सोलूट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच, जहाँ इंडिविजुअल इतने इवॉल्व हो जाए कि वो इस बात को समझे कि जस्ट बिकॉज आपका सेंटिमेंट हर्ट हुआ है या आपको बुरा लगा है, दैट डजंट मीन कि यू विल रिसोर्ट टू वायलेंस. इवन अगर आपको कोई वे लेना भी है, लाइक देर आर स्टिल वेज, लाइक डिफेमेशन है, अगर आपको लगता है कि फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच है बट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी है, आप किसी को डिफेम नहीं कर सकते. सो दीज थिंग्स आर ऑल्सो देयर. तो जब तक वो नहीं है हमारे अंदर आ जाती है या सर्टेन डिग्री तक कि हम उसको हैंडल कर पा रहे हैं, एंड सिंस पॉपुलेशन इतनी ज़्यादा है, भी बहुत सारे अदर इश्यूज हैं, आई वुड सजेस्ट कि प्रैक्टिकलिटी को हमें पहले मद्देनज़र रखना चाहिए. बहुत ही नोबल आइडिया होगा, बट ऑल्सो लेट मी बी वेरी फेयर ह्यूमन बीइंग हियर. I do not feel anything for Zubair after what he मतलब he had done. जबकि मैंने उसको कुछ ऐसा नहीं कहा था, मैंने कोई थ्रेट नहीं दी थी, मैंने एक सिंपल सा ट्वीट किया था कि ये मत करो, डू नॉट बी ए मुमताज़ कादरी ऑफ इंडिया, डोंट स्टार्ट दिस फायर. आज ये फायर तुम लगा रहे हो तो ये आगे भी बढ़ेगा, और ये इनका हिस्ट्री रहा है. पहले ये लोग लोगों के पीछे जाया करते थे उनकी जॉब छुड़वाने. इफ एनीबडी इज इन मिडिल ईस्ट और कहीं पे, तो उसकी जॉब वो छुड़वा देते थे.
काफी सारे हिंदूज को इन्होंने डॉक्स किया क्योंकि इनको पता था वो मिडिल ईस्ट में थे, और इन्होंने अपना वो वेनम निकाला क्योंकि they spoke something which was against Muslim sentiments, and they have made people, like उनकी jobs गई. but अब तो खैर they have reached to another level. अब तो ये riots, killings और diplomatic fallout भी इंडिया का होता है, और जो communities के बाद में tension होता है, तो ये सामना.
तो इससे ये एक चीज बहुत क्लियर हो जानी चाहिए कि इट डजंट मैटर व्हाट यू वुड डू, उनका क्या क्या कहते हैं मोडस ऑपरेंडी,
yes.
वो चेंज नहीं होगा. ठीक है, अगर आपको लेना है, वो जो भी बोलते हैं ना कि मुझे ये स्टैंड लेना है प्रिंसिपल के बेस पे, मैं लूंगा, लो आप. नो वन कैन डिक्टेट दैट, बट नो द रियलिटी, नो द प्रैक्टिकलिटी. आपके ऐसे करने से सामने में कोई चेंजेस नहीं आएगा. तो यू हैव टू बी वेरी केयरफुल, यू हैव टू have no expectation from other cabal. They know what they are fighting for. They are ruthless. They know their end goals. So आपके प्रिंसिपल से कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. I was the one, खालिद और मेरी काफ़ी बहस हुआ करती थी जब मैं भी इसी तरह से बातें करती थी कि नहीं, प्रिंसिपल के बेस पे होना चाहिए. बट स्लोली यू सी दैट कि देयर इज अ बिगर फाइट्स. लेट मी टेल यू दिस वे, अगर आपका स्टेट खतरे में है तो ह्यूमन राइट्स उस टाइम पे उतनी मैटर नहीं करती, बिकॉज आपकी कंट्री नहीं रहेगी तो ह्यूमन राइट कहाँ से रहेगा. सो practicality or reality is always going to lead any decision and should be right.
And
Absolutely.
I believe,
Yeah, Umar.
I believe we are wrapping it up. I know. So just very quickly, I would add कि talking about the level playing field. तो एक तरफ तो सरतन से जुदा हो रहे हैं और दूसरी तरफ जो है हमारे पास मुनव्वर फारूकी है, ठीक है, whose only claim to fame is insulting Hindu deities and doing the victimhood dramabazi.
Absolutely.
These are the only two things he does. It's not like he was very talented and उसने साथ में कुछ ऐसा बोल दिया controversial. No, his only claim to fame is that. And what happens to him? He is a star today. वो show में जाता है and he wins with the support of the biggest Islamic foe of India, Kangana Ranaut, and now he is making songs and he is raking in millions. तो level playing field की तो हम बात ना ही करें तो अच्छा है. And he will be doing that ungrateful thing, that ड्रामेबाजी again. I know. तो यहाँ पे कोई बैलेंस कोई है ही नहीं दूर दूर तक।
No, thank you. Thanks you spoke about that. That's one topic I forgot. That here is a guy who mocked the killing of Hindu women and kids as toddlers who were 16 days old, who were burned to death. And the joke was obnoxious, where he said that, burning train and, unme to baad mein jalate hai na, for which he got again applause from those same, what I call the dumb Hindus, right? And obviously the zombies like him loved it. He's a superstar. He has fame, power, he has political backing, and all this based on the fact that he has abused the Hindu deities, and he's abused victims. And if reverse would have happened, you know what likes of Zubair would have done. Zubair, uh, credit to the majority community. Everything is happening through legality. Everything is happening through constitutional norms, and that is the least we could have expected from our community when we were going for the target which Zubair had painted on. So again, I mean, it's up to this cabal to make him as this victim, which he's not. He's privileged. Victim Mudassir tha 16 saal ka. He's out of the world now, right? Victim wo Udaipur ke tha. He's out of the world. Zubair is there. Costly lawyers are, international cabals there who will support him to take all anti-India positions. But let it be very clear that we are not going to give up against this challenge that we see from this cabal. And we do understand that they also constantly are always looking at taking the challenge to us. But it's important for the peace, prosperity of this country. It's important to preserve it, and especially the self-loathing. So on that note, we, as always, we pray for moderation, peace, unity, truth, reconciliation, and the children of lesser God have the same shot at life which all of us privileged have. On that note, a big thank you to you, Umar. Big thank you to you, Zeba. And
Thank you for
continue
having me.
supporting us. Continue supporting us, and have a great this night. Bye bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
everyone.
Okay, bye bye everyone.
प्लीज
Thank you for having
सब्सक्राइब
us.
करना. थैंक यू फॉर कमिंग हियर ज़ेबा एंड उमर,
Yeah.
ऑलवेज वेलकम. एंड दर्शकों से मैं गुजारिश करना चाहूँगी कि प्लीज़ सपोर्ट कीजिए एंड शेयर कीजिए, लाइक सब्सक्राइब करना बिल्कुल मत भूलिए. एंड आते रहिए, सुनते रहिए हमें, और हमें फीडबैक भी देते रहिए. थैंक
Thank
यू.
you. Bye bye.